Licensing Committee. We're all here in person, apart from Councillors Moulton and Howard, who I believe are behind us. Up there. Do you want to wave to them to prove it? Ah, there you go. And the only other person who isn't here is Mary Curtin, who gives her apologies. So she's done her backing. Right. First of all, I've done the apologies for absence. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? No, no, no. Oh, Nigel.
It is on page 73, the third street trading of the occasion, and it's called Tasty. This is apparently in Abbey Ward, not Collierswood. Thank you.
It doesn't, it's not, you're not actually, you don't get any money out of it personally for you, do you?
Yeah. No.
No, well, I don't think you need to declare that then. I mean, it's just in your ward, that's fine.
Yes, but it's in Abbey, not in Collierswood.
Oh, I see.
Location.
Oh, I see what, yeah, we'll come back to that, yeah. But anyway, that's noted, right, okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. Have you read them? Do you like them? Can I sign them off as correct? Fabulous. Thank you very much indeed. It's still the 14th, isn't it? Okay, on to the first report, which is the report on the Statement of Principles under the Gambling Act 2005. And who's going to lead on this? Is it yourself, Caroline? Are you there, Caroline Sharp?
Yes, I will do, Chair.
Thank you.
Give you a summary of the report. Sorry, I was trying to find my mute button there. Disappeared on me. Yeah, so I'm conscious, Chair and members, that you've read the paperwork. So I'm just going to give you a summary of the report.
Sorry, Caroline, we're having difficulty hearing you. I'm fine. I can't hear you. Stephen Unbridges can, but he's about the only person who can. I don't know if you can adjust the.
Oh.
Sorry about this, folks.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll try and put it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can. Fine.
Can you hear me now?
You can. That's fine.
Okay. Can I give you the summary now, Chair? Or?
Please do, Caroline. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Section 349 of the Gambling Act 2005 requires the licensing authorities before each successful period of 3 years to prepare a statement of principles that they propose to apply in exercising their functions under the Act during that period, and to also publish the statement. The next successful period starts on the 31st of January next year. However, the statement needs to be adopted by 31st of December this year, and it must be published at least 4 weeks before the date on which it comes into effect on the authority's website, and also available for inspection by members of the public. In addition, a notice advertising the publication must also be displayed on the council's website, and also the notice on the council's notice board at the Civic Centre. This report here provides details of the outcome of the review of London Borough of Merton Statement of Principles under the Gambling Act 2005. Members will recall that at the meeting on the 13th of July, the Licensing Committee agreed the draft Statement of Principles under the Gambling Act for consultation. The consultation took place between 19th of July and 27th of September. During the consultation period, the licensing authority received 10 responses to the consultation through the online survey, and in addition, 4 responses were received directly. A summary of all the responses received, Chair, are produced on pages 63 to 70 of the agenda. Majority of the people that responded to the consultation were in supportive of the proposed statement of principles, and all those who commented also supported the retention of the casino or no casino policy. You will note under paragraph 3.6 of the report, which is also produced on page 5 of the agenda, that we have proposed to make some amendments to the statement of principles, and these are detailed within that paragraph. A copy of the statement of principles is attached to the report, which is produced on pages 9 to 42 of the agenda. And this is showing the amendments that we've proposed as a result of the consultation feedback that we received, and other amendments are showed, all of them are showed as track changes. We've also now developed a local area profile, Chair, which we didn't have before. This is included within the statement of principles. The local area profile is good because it will inform the operators what we expect them to do when carrying out risk assessment, because it's more give them information about their locality and things that they need to take into consideration when they are operating. So it is good that we've developed this local area profile, which is produced on pages 47 to 55 of the agenda. So tonight we're just asking, Chair, for members to consider reinstating the no casino policy resolution and recommend for it to be adopted at full council on the 17th of November. We are also asking members to consider the comments that received during the public consultation, and also the proposed draft gambling statement of principles. We are also asking members to approve the statement of principles for 2022 to 2025, and also recommend for it to be adopted at full council on the 17th of November. That is the summary of report. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions or any points of clarification at this stage. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Caroline. Right, how are we going to go about this? First of all, are there any questions to Caroline in the first instance? Russell.
Thank you for the report, Caroline. To be wary, on page 14, you've got a map of the existing wards. They are changing in May. The names of them are changing and some of the boundaries are changing as well. So that is will be out of date very soon. Similarly, with the maps inside, the ward boundaries are changing. There will still be 20, but there'll be different places.
Yeah.
That's basically the question I've got, the statement I've got to make to you, Caroline, at the first time. I've got some questions as well, but I'll have them later on.
Hang on, Russell. So that was a statement. It wasn't a question. What was your question? Was there a question? Oh, you made a statement. I see. Yeah, well, that's true. Caroline, can we amend that?
Yes, definitely we can. Once it's published, you know, we can amend when the new wards are introduced to reflect the, you know, the current state of that wouldn't be a problem.
It won't make any difference to the actual policy, will it?
No, it's just
exactly.
the ward.
But yeah. Thank you very much for that, Russell. Okay, questions, Stephen.
Thank you for this, Caroline, very good. And since our last meeting, it's well laid out. Can I just ask a simple question? I mean, we as councillors all want to promote small society lotteries, their draws and the charitable causes they make. And, you know, they're charities and they're always wanting to raise money for good causes. And it just seems to me that the section on small society lotteries is kind of an afterthought. It's a point 21 right at the very end. And I was wondering whether, without changing anything in there, whether the small societies lotteries section could go a bit higher up. It's a tabulation question, whether it's possible. If not, that's fine, it's there. But we as councillors, I'm sure, support small society lotteries. Thank you.
Caroline?
Are you asking for it to be put for, you know, put the pages to change, or is it the information that was
The
provided?
information's fine. I've got no problems for the information, but you have, so if you look at your index on page 2, page 10 of the agenda, page 2 of the report, you know, it's got enforcement premises, casinos, then travellers' fares. And it seemed to me that small society lotteries could go just under travellers' fares. It's like, you know, we're talking here about premises, licenses, casinos, travellers' fares, and small society lotteries, whereas it's right at the end. Nothing huge. If that's where small societies belong in most gambling policies, or that's fine. But it does seem like a little afterthought when we want to encourage these.
Yeah, that is because obviously all the other stuff, all the other information we've provided is we get a lot of information in terms of all the applications, and that's how we usually lay them out in the policy, to make sure that the information is provided, and that's how it's laid out in that way. And small society are obviously just permits that we grant, and all the other sections are more like licenses and reviews that we deal with on a complex basis. That's why we wanted that information to be more prominent, because we don't really have a lot of issues with small society lottery. We do help them. They're quite a simple process, but the way we've structured it is in a manner, and that's how most gambling policies are structured, in that manner, really. But the information would be there if a small society organization, like a charitable organization, wanted to refer to the policy. Not many do, in my experience of doing the Gambling Act since it was introduced in 2007. Usually small society lotteries, you know, they are light touch, and we try to help them as much as possible. Information is also available on the website. The only ones that we tend to have issues with, from my experience, are things like premises licenses, and you know, enforcement side of things, and joint partnership working. That's why we wanted to put it in the front of the policy, because those are the cases that those issues can become complex. And if that helps to explain why it's structured in that way.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I'd add to that, actually, because past life, I used to be a broker for small society lotteries. I know I'll come straight to you. Frankly, what happens, Stephen, is that anybody who's doing a lottery usually asks questions first. And if you're asking questions, it is here. I don't think exactly where it makes a vast amount of difference. We would say, though, that the index says it's on page 30, and it's actually on page 31, so we could improve that.
Yeah.
Sorry, David.
Yeah.
Mr. President. Oh, thank you, Amy. The small society things are registered locally, of course they are. And they don't need it's quite clear that they don't require a license. But most of them are, as Stephen has alluded to, are little church organizations, football clubs, whatever. I mean, this is not a big deal. This is all very small fry. So I'm not sure why we're spending quite so much time on this particular small society.
There you go, Stephen. You got told. No, I mean, it was, David, a valid point, but I think we sorted that one out. Any other questions at this stage? Nigel.
Obviously, talked about the complaint on section 17 on our page 34. There seems to be very little detailed mention there. Is it possible
are you able to explain more in terms of the procedure? You know, the corner plate. Surely it mustn't be quick, because it can cause huge conflict between the trader and the people who live nearby and people who are abusing the system. Thank you.
Caroline, any comment?
Could you just, I'm really sorry, I struggled to get that. If somebody can just probably just explain it to me again. I'm really sorry. I didn't quite capture the full question. Is it to do with complaints against licensed premises?
Yeah.
Right. And how they investigated, is that right?
Is that's what, right, is it, Nigel? Yes. Yeah.
So in terms of complaints,
Because on the,
hang on a second, Nigel.
It's very little there, and I would like to see more in terms of, you know, different parties, you know, in a vote from the trader point of view, the people who live nearby, people who are abusing the system, and where the council in involvement. Thank you.
I'm not really sure where you're coming from on this. So
could you just summarize it for me? I'm really sorry, I can't be struggling
take
to.
Got to take the
quite quick. It can be reading so quickly, and I disagree with that, because
Nigel, am I right in thinking that you're saying it's a bit of a one-sided process? Yeah. Okay. It's a fair comment, but I mean, Caroline, you know, as somebody who uses this on a day-to-day basis, would you say it is a one-sided process, or are the
when you say
traders
one-sided
allowed to
process,
speak?
is that as in the application or as in enforcement? I'm just trying to. I'm struggling to understand. You know.
I think what Councillor Bembo was saying was that where complaints against licensed premises are concerned, the way this is written, it appears to be all about the person who's made the complaint rather than the business defending itself against it.
I think, you know, that is obviously when we deal with license complaints, we have to deal with them in we have to follow our enforcement protocol before we can even take any action, because we do know that some of the complaints can be frivolous, vexatious, or, you know, they come in as an allegation. In any case, not just gambling. When we get a complaint, it's an allegation at the beginning, and then we take it through the investigation process that is obviously engaging with the licensee or finding out a few details from the complainant before we even take any action. That is our process with any licenses that we deal with. For example, I would say that we did carry out compliance visits for all the gambling premises in Merton, and I'm pleased to announce that, you know, they were very, very self-regulated. The paperwork was brilliant with most of the premises, except from one particular premises, which we are now going back in Mitcham to carry out further visits, joint visit with the police. So in terms of the gambling premises, I'm happy to report to the members that the paperwork when we carried out this visit was absolutely excellent. They do carry out self-exclusions and carry out all the necessary checks in addition in accordance with the conditions and the code of practice. But all I would say is any complaints that we receive on a licensed premises, are dealt with in our, through a process that we follow in terms of complaints investigation. So it is not a one where we wouldn't treat information on face value. We would have to investigate before we can even consider taking an action. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you very much. I've got to say, I'm going to back you up 100% on that, Caroline, having seen it from both sides, if you like, as a councillor. I'm sure that David would do the same, it's always been a very fair process, the way I've seen it. And if people do come up with vexatious complaints, as sometimes they do, that those complaints are thrown out. Right. Okay. Russell, your questions this time.
I've got a few questions. On page 22, you talk about at 10:12, you've got the proposed premises are a fire risk, which cannot be taken into account by the committee. Can they take into account the fact that there's overcrowding in the betting shop, and i.e. put a limit on the amount of people that can go into it?
What I would say is, what I would say is, obviously, when we're taking any enforcement action, we link in with lead responsible authorities. And from the question you've got there, if we receive that there's overcrowding, we would link in with the fire authority to go out and carry out, because each premises has got a maximum capacity they can allow. Whilst that information is not on the license, they would have to comply with other legislation. And in this case, it would be the fire risk. A fire authority would have to go in. If there is overcrowding, if we receive that information, that's how we would investigate that and carry out the appropriate action. It may be that we as a licensing authority wouldn't carry out the action, but it may be that the fire authority might lead in carrying out action. With the Gambling Act, obviously, the responsible authorities have also regulatory powers in their own right. So we would look at the problem and see whether the fire authority could take action within their own regulatory powers, or whether to take action under the Gambling Act. That's how we would deal with if we had a situation in the way you've just queried, Councillor.
But similarly, with the amount of people in the place, presumably, can we put a limit on?
No.
We can't under the gambling, unless, I've got my legal help here from Mr. Guy Bishop, but to the best of my knowledge, the conditions for Gambling Act are very mandatory. They're very prescribed within the Act. If a matter had to be called to the licensing subcommittee, then you would have to hear all the evidence in that case. But initially, I think the first thing we would have to do as a licensing authority is to investigate and have that engagement with the operator to find out if there's an issue and really look to resolve it before we can even take any action. We do try to push for compliance in our approach of licensing enforcement rather than, taking action, and it usually works.
Russell, any other questions?
Yeah, I think you misunderstand.
No, I think it has been answered. Do you want any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question about enforcement. Apart from the powers of withdrawing it, the license in the first place, have we got any other powers, and who's paying for it?
Caroline.
The powers, I'm assuming you mean revocation of a license. Is that what you mean? Right. I think revocation, obviously, everything that we do under the gambling in terms of enforcement is paid for through the application fee, and the application of the gambling premises that is split within the application and also enforcement. So that's where the fee comes from. But in terms of taking a revocation, it has to be really, like I say, we have to take that stepped approach. And the revocation, the matter would have to be referred to the licensing subcommittee to make that final decision whether they have to revoke it or whether they can look to have put other measures in place before they revoke a license, and that's how it's dealt with. In terms of enforcement, obviously we do go out, as I mentioned earlier, to carry out these compliance visits, and we would take that stepped approach with any problem premises. Before we even refer it to the licensing subcommittee, we would look to really look for compliance, push for compliance, and if all fails, that's when it would land probably with you members to make a decision, and the revocation would be a decision that the committee would have to make, not the licensing officers. Don't know if that answers the question. I'm sorry.
Will that do? Okay. Now, if there are no more questions, then thank you very, very much indeed, Caroline, for that. We now have to do one after the other. First of all, we've got to restate the no casino resolutions and recommend them for adoption by full council on the 17th of November 2021. Are we all agreed on that? Lovely. You've got that, Caroline. Second of all, you've got to consider the comments received during the public consultation, which, as I'm sure you're all aware, are on pages 63 and 64. Any questions about those? We seem to be fair enough on that one too. Do we approve the statement of principles 2022 to 2025 at Appendix A? We do. And do we recommend the whole lot for adoption by full council on the 17th of November? Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I bet you feel
Thank you,
better.
members.
Right. Okay. We have one other piece of business tonight. For some reason, it's called miscellaneous matters, but actually, this is quite interesting. Well, it's not the last bit wasn't interesting. Of course, it was. But this is the designation of part of the highway as licensed streets for the purposes of street trading. And starting on page 73, who's going to talk us through this?
Hello, Chair. It's David Ryan, Licensing Officer.
Hello, David.
Good evening. If you're okay for me to start, I'll proceed.
Go ahead.
Okay, so all members should have received the report in the packs. I won't go through every detail of it, but just a quick summary of what we're looking at for this. These are three brand new designations we put before the committee. So one is in Lower Morden. It's a ground fresh market. It's been operating for just over a year, slightly longer than we normally would on a temporary license, mainly due to COVID, the various closures we've had, and obviously cancelled committees, all the things that occurred in the last year and a half. The second one is a new site in Collierswood. This is an area where we've had a lot of interest in the past, but following some redevelopment works over the last couple of years, we've managed to obtain a small site which is actually under our jurisdiction rather than Transport for London, mainly because they've said no to everything for about 10 years. The final site is just down the road from that. It's at Homs Road. It's an area opposite the big Sainsbury's. And that's one of a number of sites that was identified by a trader and was put forward to the Highways Department to decide whether this was a suitable location or not. They gave us specific areas which we could use for it. So that trader's been operating there for 6 months now on a temporary license. So each one of these is operating temporary, which is our standard procedure now. Any new license holders that come in have to use a temporary license for 6 months, at which point we can send the consultation out, assess whether the site is suitable or not, gives the public a chance to have it testing actually live rather than just on a piece of paper. Then we come before the subcommittee, the committee, and decide on the designation. If that goes forward, then we can issue a full license, which is renewed annually. But what I'll do is if I leave it open to members if they have any questions regarding those sites.
So first of all, questions. Let's do it site by site. Shall we first of all start off with the one in Rains Park? And I'd imagine, Stan, your question would be, why does it say Rains Park when in fact it's Lower Morden? But leaving that aside, questions. Any questions about is this about the Lower Morden Rains Park one, Russell? No. The question then, yeah, go on.
Right. The question is that has any consideration been made about the noise that's been that will be created by these places, or the smell that's coming from them? Because there's one in my ward that's very noisy because the generator is old, and that's for basically all three of them.
Do you have an answer for that one?
Yes, obviously under the terms and conditions of the license, they need to abide by certain noise requirements. For us as a licensing team, we look at whether they're in breach of that, but we do rely on the expertise of our noise and pollution team to assess whether they are in breach of any set regulations for any pollutants or for any noise. So obviously they will check in the area of a complaint, they'll monitor the sound levels and see whether they're actually in breach of those. But it is under the conditions. It's also something that will be brought before this committee in the next calendar year. We're looking at rewriting the street trading policy. So that will take into account more of the issues that have been raised. Obviously, Councillor Making brings those up. It's a trade that is now gone from the area, but we did have a number of issues in relation to noise. So that's
okay, thank you very
something
much.
that's going to inform the policy going forward as they come forward.
Sorry, it was a freeze, not a completely ended sentence. Hang on, John, that's all right by you, Russell? John. This is more about the sites, but it's not really to do with the actual operating times. It's the sites themselves, whether we're allowing trading to happen on these sites.
Right. Set out for them.
Well, I think we're going to go on to comments. Yes. Thank you. So, right, I'm going to start off with questions and comments about the Grand Fresh Market at Grand Drive, Lower Morden,
Yes,
Rains Park. Go on.
Thank you, Chair.
Hello, I was trying to.
You are right, but Stephen,
Yes,
you had a question.
This used to be Paul's Electrical, which was quite a popular small business, and this has been replaced by another small business. There's a huge pavement area outside, huge, and these businesses have been hidebound by COVID. They've been running temporarily. I think we should see fit to formalise, and I have every confidence in Officer Ryan and the meticulous way in which he runs street trading licensing here. But if you went to Grand Drive Fresh Meat, it's not actually just meat. It's quite an array of delicatessen food offer. But the space outside is absolutely huge, including halloumi, of course.
That's an excellent advert for these premises. Thank you very much, Stephen. Oh, I've got Una apparently with her hands up, so I'm going to take Una next and then Stan. Go on, Una.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that this particular market, well, it's not really a market, it seems to be a front to a big shop, but at any rate, it doesn't look to me, and I could be contradicted, that it's likely to cause a great noise nuisance, given that it's, and or too smelly, given that it's, well, it says it's going to allow the placing of fruit and vegetable stock on the designated site 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. So it doesn't seem to me that it's likely to cause a great problem, and that exactly that, it's really an extension to the outside trading facility for that particular store. So you know, I don't see too much of a problem from the drawings and the yeah, you know, and the description that's been given. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Una. Stan, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I just wanted also to agree with what Stephen has said, because there's a massive space outside and it wouldn't cause any disruption whatsoever. And for what they suffered over the last period, 2 years, I think it'd be worthwhile to get what they are applying for back.
Thank you very much. Paul. You just press yourself.
Oh, I do. So this holds for this and all the others. It's surely relevant there. It says at 7, well, it says Appendix F, representations, and there are none. That is right, isn't it? Because at 710 it says there were many representations. Does that mean they were all irrelevant? Because it's surely relevant if there were no representations against any of these applications.
Apologies, that might be a typo in the report. There were no representations for that application.
So why have we not got any at Appendix F? Or have I missed it?
No,
should
you
be
haven't
on
missed
the
it.
report.
There's nothing
Appendix
written.
F says none received. Am I missing something?
No, we didn't receive any representation, so the typo is obviously slightly earlier in the report.
That's good. No representations were received.
So 710 is just wrong.
710, it should be. No, I think that's a general comment. Many representations received during the consultation phase relate to the type of trading and not to the designation of the licensed street to which committee is concerned, which it goes back to the hours of trading, if you think about it. We can't comment on that. That's not our job.
But okay,
I think,
okay.
yeah. I'm sorry if that sounded like a lawyer. I just want to go straight back to this and say that this is something I drive past on a very regular basis. And I've got to say the kind of colour and excitement of having this in front of the Grand Fresh Market will certainly make a big improvement to Grand Drive. So let's move on to the next one. Britannia Point, Collierswood. Any questions? Any suggestions? Any statements? You all happy? They're all happy. Great. Last one, the view southeast towards, oh, hang on, what's it called? It's Merton High Street, at the junction between Merton High Street and Holmes Road. Any questions about that one? Any suggestions? I'd say it's the least attractive of the three, but it's small business. It's supporting small business. It's precisely, colleagues, the type of thing that we were talking about, if you remember, during lockdown, that we actually wanted to get more people outside doing. And it is, as far as I'm concerned, better late than never. I think it's great. I think I'm allowed to say that kind of thing from the chair. Right, here we go then. So, do we as a licensing committee resolve to grant those proposed designations? We do all agree. Well, thank you very much indeed. I hope that's all right by yourself.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think that comes to the end of our business here tonight, colleagues, and it's not even 8 o'clock yet. Anybody want to sing a song or anything like that? Well, I've got to say thank you to the officers. Thank you, as ever, to Amy. And